Okay. We're wired for sound. Mr. President?
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. So in regard to the roll call, I'd like to introduce a new person. Chris Powers is our new CFO in Albany. He's going to be a new designate on the board. So Chris grew up in Albany. He's been
Born and bred in Albany, was in New York City for up until COVID, and have been back upstate since then.
No, you're one of the refugees. Huh?
One of the escapees that never went back, but Albany, born and bred, as I said, so back home.
Good.
so we're here for Albany for Cohoes. We've got Gary
Nathan.
no Shane today.
Yeah, Shane's on vacation, lucky him.
Rensselaer, we got those Troy, we've got Andrew and Chris. Chris's last day is tomorrow at Troy.
Yep. Last official day on the books, but as of about noontime, I have a day and a half of personal time to
So we'll be sad to lose you, Chris. I mean, boy, how many years have you been involved? I know Neil was involved from the beginning, but
back to when we were taking samples on the river. Before that, I was on the boats.
Yeah, that was 2008.
2007, 2008.
Yeah.
I've been doing it since like 2005 or 6.
wow, and you punted up a lot of projects for Troy. So
Yeah. Yeah, going back through, it's been over like $30 million in grants that I've gotten from the city of Troy. Not including CSO stuff.
Look at that. You weren't even elected.
Well, amazing.
And let's see, for Watervliet.
Yep.
We got Dave. I don't often get Watervliet, so thank you for coming.
That's all the urgencies, huh?
Marina Island, we've got Maggie. And we've got no representatives from the sewer districts. This time, I don't know if Albany County is going to make another assignment or not with and then CDRPC, we've got Mark and we've got Tom. And the joint venture team, we've got Mike Miller in person.
In person?
It's been like since before the pandemic. Since we've seen me in person.
I don't think it's been that long. I can remember coming in once or twice.
So that's our roll call, the minutes.
Well, maybe before the minutes, we entertain a friendly amendment to the agenda to include the election of a vice president under item 4.
We need a new vice president because Chris is our vice president. And we do need a new treasurer also. And I don't know if it was a board resolution for accepting the designee or not, with or that's just a.
I think it's just a board vote to accept the designee. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so the agenda has to include updating our member roster here and officers. So meeting minutes from the last time, did anyone pick up anything that needed to be corrected or changed in the minutes? Not, would I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Maggie, Do I have a second?
I'll second
Gary, all in favor?
it. Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Financial report as of 8/1, Tom White.
Well, we are almost 80% complete on everything for the budget, just shy of, the program, long-term control plan is slightly over 80%. We have $47,000 in the bank. We have a couple of bills that will, complete that a little bit this month, if approved by the board. And, that's pretty much it. Any questions on the distribution of wealth, debt? It's actually out there.
Yeah, I think, Tom, you and I and Chris will need to
Yeah,
get familiar with, everything.
the prior for,
Maybe we'll want to have some separate meeting and then.
yeah, schedule it. I'll be happy to,
Presumably, it's been a pretty robust due from going back and forth all the parties here for the past 100 years, right?
yeah, and I've got that all.
Tracked in your financial statements.
Yeah. The financial statements have some old flaws in them that I'm still working through. They're accurate to the totals, but they're inaccurate to the details. The financials they are. Back when I first started, I scheduled all of the due from for every purpose. And so I have actually a multi-year spreadsheet that brings us to this report. Okay. So,
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we got everything up to date on SharePoint because it seemed like there were
much easier.
empty folders in SharePoint.
What did it look like yesterday?
I still didn't see certain things, and Martin is going to stop by my office this afternoon and go over what, because I have things that I saved previously that were
Wondering where they are.
in OneDrive, and now I look for them in SharePoint, but
Yeah.
they're not there. We're trying to close out, well, we're going long-term with our first tranche, and we're trying to figure out how to take care of the second tranche. And just want to make sure we know where all the things are. So we'll need to just get that straightened out.
So just as an update, we're working with our IT consultants on it. Apparently the file paths are too long. So it's 2023. I don't know.
I
how
don't
that's a
know
factor,
how
but,
that, I don't know about what needs to be done, but if SharePoint isn't working, we could go back to OneDrive or Dropbox or whatever we need.
yeah, I mean, we'll make it work. I just need to make sure that they're making progress on solving the problem.
Vendors invoices. Yeah, I don't think we actually needed a board.
No action on the financial.
No.
The invoices. We've got a Columbia Street, they got two Columbia Street.
I will note that the term of the second invoice from CDRPC should read April through June. Not a repeat of January to March.
Proposed invoices. Is there another? What are you referring to?
Oh, just the second CDRPC bill. The term for the bill should be April to June.
Am I looking at something different than what you're thinking?
Are you still in the minutes from this? It could be in.
Oh, is it seven minutes?
No, the current invoices for this meeting. Should be there.
Oh. I see. Look, you look at the last page. Am I missing that?
Okay.
Not this packet. Why?
Yeah, assessment.
Okay. So we've got, does everybody have a version that's got,
Here's the correct packet.
oh. We're good. Those. CHA, PDRPC. And we've got the insurance.
Right.
And, so I think as we've said before, some of these, also we need to talk about the, whether some of these are dispersible, but, so we'll pay these bills on, in regard to whether we have the finances for the bank to pay them. And, I think we're going to talk a little bit later about the current cost summaries and what things needed to be, cleared to get some money back. Those projects for Columbia Street and Bleak Street now look like they're very close to being dispersable. I think Columbia Street is dispersable, and Bleak Street, at least on our cost summary, it didn't show any eligible costs, but that needs to be corrected.
Right, I didn't understand why EFC is doing that. Although if you notice, when they brought up their spreadsheet, everyone that had a utilization approval problem, there was 0. So I think it had to do with utilization.
So it's either utilization or it's EFC thinks they didn't have the EFC required language attached to some of them. I think that was on some of the.
I know what Police Street, that all the language is there. I think they're still hung up on getting the sub-consultant stuff from Angelica,
Yeah,
Well,
which we basically told the Prime Newcastle that we're not processing any payment apps until we get it.
I'm not sure what exactly what EFC needed to do. They only showed the construction cost for the project.
Right.
And of course, we knew that it needed to be, for the eligible part, it needed to be netting out the GIGP grant. But it shows 0, but it shows 0 for eligible. So, so that's kind of screwed up. But anyway,
They didn't seem to have a very firm handle on the receipt themselves. So
anyway, in order to pay,
how are we
in
supposed to?
order to pay these bills, we're going to have to get some disbursement from EFC and this stuff. But really, it's Troy and Albany are the only ones that EFC financing that would. So we would need disbursements. So anyway, do I have a motion to pay these bills at the point where we have the funds in the bank to do so?
I'll make a motion.
Maggie, second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Andrew, seconds. All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carries. That is the invoices, EFC disbursements and reconciliations.
You want to do the CDRPC contract?
So what,
That's the good packet I need.
oh. I see. I got a whole different agenda on this one.
Yeah, that's the minutes from last.
Yeah, I got it.
That's what happened.
Sorry about that.
I'll get it.
So do we need to do the appointment stuff as the next?
We can go back up to item 3. The appointment of designees. Chris Powers, whom we've all met, is the designee for Albany as named in their letter that they sent to the corporation. So this board just needs to take an action accepting the designation for Albany.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Gary, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Okay, so. And Rensselaer,
We've not gotten any names from Rensselaer as yet.
then, we'll move on to election of treasurer.
Election treasurer, we can accept nominations from the floor and then take a vote.
Okay, I guess I'm nominating our new CFO, Chris Powers. Can you care to this? Any other nominations? Any discussion? Chris, you want to?
Something else?
You want to talk?
All in favor?
You want to tell them a little bit about your background and?
Yeah, so like I said, born and bred in Albany, I went to Fordham in New York City, stayed in New York. After that, was an accountant. I worked for what was then Coopers and Lybrand, became PwC for about 8 years in 2 different stints. And then in the 2000s, I sort of randomly got into bankruptcy workout consulting for a few firms down there without even knowing kind of what that was. But I spent about 10 years doing that. And then about the year 2013 started my first kind of stint as a CFO. I became the CFO of an art storage company in New York that was distressed. It was a company called Crozier Fine Arts. This guy, Bob Crozier, apparently was the driver for Andy Warhol. All Andy and all his friends had died, and then Bob was the only one that survived, and it was bequeathed the Warhol Foundation to store, and that's what he did, and shipped that art. So he somehow built this company almost by accident, and then that kind of started me as a CFO in New York. We ended up turning that around. I kept in that business until right up until the new COVID, if you will. Sorry, the old COVID in 2021, and relocated back up to the Albany area, and I've kind of been here ever since. So brings me here. It was probably been about 10 days at the water department. So if it looks like I don't know what you're talking about, I certainly don't. But we'll get there.
So Chris has got accounting chops, and we're mighty glad to have him on board. So any other nominees? Can I have a motion? Maggie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, congratulations. Committees,
Oh, we got election of a VP.
election of VP, oh, that was the
As it's gonna be added.
added.
You can self-nominate also.
I'm staring at
Okay,
Pointing at each
we've
other.
got Andy Golden.
Yeah, all right, we'll do
Any other?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Can, does that mean we have to bump somebody to be secretary?
Yes, and you can't hold positions simultaneously.
Okay.
So,
I'm already doing that too.
so you get out of being secretary.
Okay.
Get being vice president.
Good deal. Yeah.
It's not a heavy lift being secretary.
You
Gotta sign the minutes.
piece of paper a month.
Vice president, you do even less.
The guy that's leaving.
Do we have any nominations?
I mean, I can do secretary.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. Do I have a motion?
Make motion.
Have a second?
One second.
Okay, Bill and Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay, we got a new secretary, vice president. treasurer, wow, what do we
Yeah.
got?
I wish the actual government works as efficiently.
Came out on stage.
Yes. Thank God.
Uh, That, does that get us to,
That gets us down to the committees, yes.
committees?
So as a reminder, here are the committee assignments currently: Governance Committee, Bill Simcoe, Gary Nathan, Chris Whelan, Mark Hendricks. Two of those guys are gonna be off. Audit Committee is Andrew Golden, Gary Nathan, Mark Hendricks. Finance Committee is Tom Dufresne, Chris Whelan, Bill Simcoe, and Gary Nathan. So maybe we can start with the Finance Committee. And maybe suggest that we add Chris and our new VP to the Finance Committee. So that would be Chris and then Andrew.
You get to show.
Continue with Bill and Gary.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You know, I'm not gonna show. We did that. Yeah.
does, anyone have any other suggestions for the slate of finance? If not, do we need a motion?
Mhm.
Motion,
I'll make a motion.
Gary,
Second.
Maggie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Governance Committee, we need to replace Chris and Mark Hendricks. So Chris's standard replacement from now on will be Andrew Golden for all things. And then Mark Hendricks will need to replace on the committee.
I don't want to do it.
Okay,
So,
so
Bill,
the slate for the Governance Committee: Bill Simcoe, Gary Nathan, Andrew Golden, and Bill Smart.
okay, I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Gary, Maggie, Gary, Maggie, all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
All right, Audit Committee: Andrew Golden's already on this one, so lucky you.
Yeah.
Gary Nathan, and we'll just need to replace Mark Hendricks on the Audit Committee.
I can go on the other.
Okay, Maggie.
Maggie,
We're gonna be here for a whole day.
okay, do I have a motion for that?
Some
Bill.
Bill, second?
second.
Dave.
Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
We did the financial reports, vendor invoices, and we're down to the CDRPC contract.
For fiscal year 2024.
Right. So it's the same contract. We've reduced our budget to not to exceed 95,000. I think we're more reasonably tracking somewhere less than 65,000. But who's to say if there's gonna be more work on these things? So 95 gives us an adequate buffer. Our rates are in there. They're subject to change at the first of the year every year.
Okay, and we need to get a bunch of signatures.
Yep, I have the signature exhibit B, if you want to just pass this around.
And then we have to attach the EFC required stuff and get a waiver again.
Yes. And this one, even though it does not have an asterisk, is an action item.
Did we have to get the executives to sign these rather than the board members?
I don't know.
Well, why don't we do
Well,
this?
just
Why don't
sign them
we
and then
sign
I'll look at the previous one, and if we need the executives, I'll circulate it. too.
Yeah,
Yeah. And if you don't, then you have it.
Mhm.
so anyone object to the annual cost going down?
Three signatures on it.
Do we need a motion to accept the new contract for administrator, TDRPC?
I'll make a motion.
Gary,
I'll second it.
second. Andrew, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Oh, yay.
That's fine. I know.
Sure. Is this the point where you want to share those files on the screen?
Yeah, I wanted to share some of the EFC information.
Or like they're,
We just were taking a look at it with EFC on Tuesday. Yeah, maybe first you could bring up the one that was Albany's 1402, which is our Beaver Creek cost summary.
This, 1402. 1402. Is that big enough for folks to see?
So most, if you scroll down really to the bottom like this, you have all these different contracts that are part of the contract. This is just the Beaver Creek Plain River project. But it shows right now the contract amount is 54,995,000. That's our overall budget after we upped it. You know, we went through having the financing and then amending it to be higher because we had the bids that came in above what the original financing was. So right now, it's showing submitted are about $44 million worth of expenses. So we're 90% done with this Beaver Creek project. And so far, in terms of Albany's disbursements, we've had about $24 million. We've had one more, after this cost summary, we've had one more disbursement, so it's a little bit more than that 23, 24 something. So that is where we stand. There's still in Albany's available balance. You see here about 9 million something. And some of that is IMG and some of that is financing. So that's where that stands. If you want to click out of that one, maybe bring up Troy's. And just scroll down to the bottom. So they all have the same items in them. It's all the same paperwork except for what percentages each community has. I guess the other difference is with the because Albany had WQIP grant and IMG grant stuff associated with it. That makes a difference in regard to us, which turns out to be more of an important difference than in regard to getting disbursements against Troy and Cohoes and Watervliet's cost summaries, because those finances ran into this document collection thing. And EFC has decided that document collection thing, if they didn't have anything for any of these projects, and we have a whole bunch of contractors on, that would be holding up a disbursement against the payments.
Yep.
So anyway, so far, Troy's indicates that dispersed to date $10 million. And I guess I have a question. I needed to work with CDRPC and Troy and Chris just to see what has made its way back to Albany in regard to the Beaver Creek, because we need that money to keep paying our contractors. So far, Troy's gotten that. If we click out of this one and go to Cohoes, Cohoes has gotten dispersed 821,000. It has available 273. And then if we go to Watervliet's, they've been dispersed 347,000. So right now, Albany's out of pocket about $4 million, and Albany has used a line of credit And this is just, the timing of when bills come in and bills get paid and trying to get reimbursement back through this system. That line of credit didn't get renewed, so it's going to need to be paid back in December. So we want to catch up and try to get these disbursements and all the money coming in for Beaver Creek, or else it's going to be hurting Waterboard in terms of cutting in more to its capital reserve that we didn't want to be doing. So I just wanted to bring that up. I want to work with Chris and Tom and figure out how that's all worked. Then I wanted to bring up the what's a different one is our 01 financing, the cost summary. This is what we were going over with, if you want to scroll up to the top. So a bunch of Troy projects are still shown as conditioned, or some of these projects have zero eligible amounts, but you see like Hoosick Street, Carver's Hoosick Street, SSSO 7 still said conditioned. So there'd be $379,000 eligible that we could get a disbursement on if we could get that to be not conditioned, but that's conditioned. That's conditioned. And some of these things too, I think on Troy's cost summary might be different than our cost summary, and I'm not sure that we got to reconcile that with Paul Johnson and say,
Yeah, because we did that project so long ago, then they changed the rules, and now they want us to meet the 2023 rules of BSC, and they want all the paperwork from Carver. When Carver did the project back in 2018, there's no way I can meet 2023 regulations on a 2018 project. Absolutely no way.
They know that when they're gonna do a waiver regardless.
They were, but Carver pretty much wrote it off and said, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing it.
We're done.
We're done. I'm out of it. So it's, the problem now is we're trying to go back so many years to try to get reimbursed. Yeah.
So he's saying, why am I getting dragged in?
They were okay for a little bit, but I've imagined 1,000 times trying to get more paperwork. And every time I get something more, EFC comes back with one more thing. And I've asked EFC multiple times, is this the last thing? Yes. Okay. Now get it. Oh yeah, well, we forgot.
it's frustrating with these phone calls because they will start looking for things in their computer systems,
Right.
and you've got dead air going on while you're Karen and
That happened Monday or when we had our meeting.
Right.
They can't look at the spreadsheet and say, well, why is this project conditioned?
No.
Why is utilization, why
I'll
is
go check with
that?
MWBE. We'll have to get them in on the call next time. Snag her off another 2 weeks.
You say Carver's been paid?
We just went for the same thing. It took 2 years. Well, I think we're getting the money.
Yeah,
But it took 2 years
it's insane.
of constant contact to get them to finally approve.
Yeah,
But how do you get over the hurdle?
that's,
Do we need to collectively put a letter together from all the communities on the joint, and then Albany pool communities and say, we need this for these reasons, make this disbursable to apply pressure? Do we have the mayor and the city call Carver directly and try and apply pressure and say, we need this done?
yeah, all this, I've submitted things for all these projects multiple times. And then they say they never got it, or put it back in the top of my inbox, or sorry, we haven't had a chance to review it. And next thing you know, it's 3 months later, and oh, did you send that? And I forget what was sent.
Mhm. Michael Hale has told me, hey, if you need something, if you're really stuck,
Give me a call.
give him a call. If we
Maybe we need to make that call.
And, he used to be working with our bond council on these financings. Now he's like a VP in the organization and has a little more capability to affect some of these things maybe, or to find out how we break the deadlock on some of these things. So,
Yeah, that's not a bad idea because Mike he's got history with the program. He knows.
Yeah, we've had
And
to
he's got
do it
more
with other
competence.
things too. Sometimes you have to elevate it and really bump it up to the higher levels, and then you get somebody on the phone who can apply some practicality and say, we need to
It's not a check,
wipe it off.
check mark on a piece of paper. It's actually, yeah, they're fine.
Yeah,
We
I
had
think if we tell them,
Discussion.
hey, we're hurting on this stuff,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
we're hurting on this stuff, and we wanna,
Or the other thing is, it's 5 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so why are you applying? I mean, nobody does. Even going back into like building code and stuff like that. It's when the building was built.
Yeah, you
So-
get into some really insane conversations, like remember Upper Washington? Where Carly wanted us to go back and do all this due diligence for a project that was completed 2 or 3 years ago, and we're like, probably I can't do that, I can't start calling
I gotta
people.
ask people for
On a
quotes on
project
work
that's
that's already done.
Yeah. And it's not like it was done last week and I forgot to get a quote from somebody. It's done 3 years ago.
Mhm.
So we gotta figure out how to get absolution on some of these requirements.
And that's most of the problems with Troy projects is they were so long ago that trying to make them meet the standards today and try to backtrack all that paperwork. Everybody's post,
That shouldn't even apply though.
and I've had some contractors that post date paperwork. It's, hey, what do you need? Just send me what you need where I sign. Just put a note where I sign, I'll get back to you.
So Pusick is conditioned, Columbia Street Phase 2. We were told that it was really clear.
Yeah,
So that showed condition on here, but this was an August 1st version of the cost summary. Numbers really haven't changed because there hasn't been another disbursement request on this. So that they said that condition was taken care of. 124th Street, it looks like the main contract is cleared, but a change order for $78,000 is shown as restricted.
And I sent that change order to them. They didn't have the signed change over, and I sent it to them on 3 times.
But it says utilization restricted, so I don't know if that means it's a Brenda Lee thing that's on there for MWB, because they want due diligence or,
They got a full waiver on that. They got a full waiver on the entire project. They're working on WPE. It was pipe installation.
I was gonna say, the minute you go into an extra work agreement, then you have to meet the requirements again. That's what we just went through. It was a nightmare.
the Lead Street, I think they said it was really the MWBE stuff was taken care of for utilization, but the eligible amount was shown as 0.
right.
So that needed to be corrected, which I think I just talked to Paul Johnson about that in,
Yeah,
Newcastle did get their waiver though. I
Oh, yeah.
remember when that came through, so.
yeah, and if you notice up on the screen, every time there's a problem with the utilization plan, eligibility is 0, no matter what the project is. So I think their default is if MWBE has a problem,
yeah.
then you're not eligible at all.
But Polk Street at the bottom is got utilization restricted, but it does have an eligible amount.
All right. Huh, I don't know then.
So Troy's outside community metering is shown conditioned,
We've been reimbursed.
but that one you've been reimbursed, so there's no reason it should be held up on
On
Is what I would think.
ours.
Approved for us, you should be all set to go.
Yeah, because I want to get a disbursement request in next week on this, and try to get some of this, Polk Street, there's utilization restricted. Have you gotten dispersed on Polk Street?
We haven't been dispersed, we haven't been approved. Look at anything on that. I think they're waiting for the contract and that's been sent to them.
So Polk Street, if we can get that cleared, if not, we'll try to just get a disbursement without that, but
It's in their inbox.
if you want to scroll down to the next page. Votables, we've gotten paid. the joint venture team is showing conditioned. And actually that one they're showing is they're eligible now. Doesn't make sense. And then CDM Smith. all
Even
of
the
their-
amount on the joint venture, I don't know what $23,000 would even relate to.
Yeah, I think.
That's just your bonus, isn't
No.
I think that might have been there from some actual
Awesome.
costs that,
Okay.
but I think these CDM Smith might have just been placeholder amounts and not necessarily their,
it? CDM Smith contacted Paul Johnson. They're looking at everything that's restricted under them right now.
that,
Whether it be conditioned or utilization restricted, they're going through all of that.
the condition would be whether the contract, that would be something with Aaron Russell and those folks, right? So that's some contract thing that, and the utilization restricted ones, like Gary was saying, they also show zero eligible amounts, so we'd have to get that stuff figured out in order to be able to make a submission for a disbursement. But that's pretty much none of the CDM stuff is showing being able to get dispersed right now. So we'll keep scrolling. Keep going to the next page. Van Buren Street also. And that probably is just the Van Buren Street for the design.
Yeah.
I think you have another small task order you're gonna have for construction phase,
Minimal.
but it's, yeah, if you wanna, is that already issued? If you wanna get that,
Task order is not issued yet.
that'll be Andrews, Karen. Okay. Keep scrolling, the potable stuff with, that's all pretty much, taken care of. There might be some more things we can get to dispersed down there. Yeah, I don't think there's anything on this page. There might be some things that have to be done. Now, CDRPC and Bond Council and Weston Company. I gotta see, Martin really says he's given all the information on these things to.
Martin's also watching us on YouTube right now.
Oh, Martin, are you watching us? He's watching us on YouTube. He can't talk to us.
Right, he did confirm we need executive signatures in our contracts. So, but I'll follow up with him to
I
make
think
sure
he's incorrect.
that he has all the things to make these ready to go.
So that's really, I guess the other thing I wanted to bring up was that spreadsheet that I sent you with the giant Excel spreadsheet.
This one or this one?
Yeah, the one that said, yeah, the one that says long-term control plan. So I'd like to, I guess, work with Tom and with Chris and with everybody that's got projects. And this is just something I've been keeping and converted over from my smart sheets into an Excel sheet. It's got every project. I want to keep track of, as we get into our final projects here, you know, how much was our budget? How much were the construction costs? How much were the engineering and other costs? What was the total? What grants were awarded? The grant award isn't necessarily always the grant that, the amount of grant that gets. So what was the grant award? What was the actual grant amount? And also keep track of what financing for Albany, Troy goes, water relief that these are under. Because I want to make sure between this spreadsheet and what Tom has in QuickBooks and what EFC has on their cost summaries, that everything corresponds. And that when we get done, we can say, here's how much was construction, here's how much was grant and be able to have an accounting for this whole program. So the things that are in yellow are kind of just what still remains. Like we, in Albany, really what all remains is eliminating two overflows, Liberty and Schuyler. Columbia Street Phase 2, even though I got it in yellow, is just about completed. Polk Street, I think it's completed, but we may not have the final number. There might have been a final change order.
Retainage.
Fleet Street also it's not closed out, it hasn't got to its final payment, but it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
That leaves Van Buren Street, which is under contract, but hasn't really started yet in Troy, and Manor Avenue in Cohoes, which is just right now in preliminary engineer report stage.
Right. The other one,
If you scroll down a little bit
Little
further,
C.
I think then,
the little C.
Bunch of,
Big C, which are now called Beaver Creek, is still active. Little C is in preliminary engineers
Right.
phase. Cross Street, which I understand might just be some sewer lining, is still has to be done. And other than that, we have the post-construction compliance monitoring, which I guess now is not going to be till 2025. And then just the other soft costs of administration and any of these insurance auditors. And then I wanted to have a listing of all these grants at the bottom, just to keep track of that. So that's, I think, Tom, you told me that there might be something similar that
We have individual project control sheets, which list all the same information that you have on this singular spreadsheet, but we have it by invoiced amount. So every bill that was approved by the board is listed, whether it has a grant applied to it or not, whether it has EFC approval or not. And then on the bottom of that particular spreadsheet, I'll share it with Chris and you, is that it breaks out total budget, actual spending, remaining amounts, that sort of thing. And then the community split.
So we have all this, and we want to make sure everything that we have gets shared in SharePoint and,
no, in fact, all of that, which is funded by some sort of note / bond / grant that can tie into the individual project.
The grants are identified. I'm not sure that the other financing pieces are identified on those sheets.
yeah, and I think that's,
EFC should have.
yeah, well, I was also trying to keep track of that. If you go back up to the top there, and scroll over to the right.
Oh, okay, that would have the number on it.
Yeah, like 1401, Troy's 00 or 01. There are longer numbers. I was just shortening of them. But yeah, if we're trying to keep track of, I guess one of the aspects of it is that there were some things that might have been financed, like in Albany, and I don't know if this is true, maybe that we had 100% on, like we said, for additional costs at Quail Street. We were making that be 100% Albany, and there might be things that are deemed ineligible that aren't going to be that a community might have to pay and not have the shared costs with. But we want to keep track of what might have been deemed to be ineligible somehow. Some things dropped off the list, like George Street.
Yeah, we had a developer do it. It didn't cost the communities anything.
And then we'll have another check of what each project cost and what went over and what went under and how the financing went with EFC. And that's kind of an update of what's going on with the EST financings and reconciliations and so forth. Any questions?
Bill, can you check on something for me? I know Jessica had indicated that they had put in a disbursement for Beaver Creek in later August. Can you check because she fills out the sheets for Gahoes? And usually I get notified and we gotta have one of our comptroller fill out the form. And it might have happened when I wasn't around.
Well, I think the problem was that document collection problem. That we could get a disbursement, but the other three communities couldn't because they were
Okay,
document collection.
that makes sense why I didn't see anything then. Because there's one particular form that we've got to fill out, and I got to get over to Jessica for her submission. And I didn't think that occurred, so that's why the question, I'm saying, well, wait a minute, there's a disbursement out there, but I don't remember seeing our paperwork.
Yeah,
Right, yeah. Okay,
well, in regard to Troy and Chris is leaving, is there anything in regard to how the paperwork goes that is going to change with that? Is there,
Unsure yet,
who is signing the certs?
unsure yet. I don't even know who's running the plant come Monday.
That might be something you want to fix first.
Yeah. You care, you will be on it.
To get Dan Seaver back.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can't offer enough.
Okay, so we'll see if we can get some help, Michael Hale or somebody break the tie. I mean, it seemed to me ridiculous. I think we had a document collection thing, like if it's small with contract, like the Jester's plumbing contract. Holding up,
right.
getting disbursements on a $50 million project. Definition of insanity.
Yes, it is.
Project updates, I guess kind of told you Beaver Creek is 90% done. Actually, we're diverting the flow now. So the flow is actually going down the pipe, the tunnel to the facility, but it's not really going through the facility. At the first chamber, there's an overflow into a diversion pipe. So we've got a little bit of flow being diverted down the channel in front of the screens that is then going to either Third Avenue or back to the, but if we have a storm, it's overflowing the first chamber, or it could back up at this rear wall that's inside the diversion chamber. August 22nd, the odor control tank finally showed up.
Wow.
So now they're forming up the roof to go over top of the odor control tank, and then they can finish up that stuff.
So that's gold leaf on it or?
I think that resin.
That's a change.
That resin might be more expensive than that. So take it off? Yeah.
I travel this afternoon.
So we're waiting for Keller really to give us a new update on our Gantt chart and how things are going to go with the rest of the primes. They've all been waiting to do some of their work until the building got totally enclosed with a roof over top of the odor control tank. So I think there's nothing left. Nothing left that's really a supply chain issue, except for general control seems to be kind of a.
They are their own supply.
They are too. They're tough.
Join the club. I'm dealing with it right now.
Everybody's dealing with them.
It is.
And they're like arguing with DMV. They get to a point where
Yep.
it's like, we're doing the best we can.
So we can't run this plant in a manual kind of mode. You can't really, if the flow is all over the place, we're trying to chlorinate and dechlorinate without having a control system.
The good news is I think Arcadis is doing the brunt of the programming.
That's right, because General Controls was supplying the
We just need
panels,
that to supply
but
everything.
Arcadis is doing the,
But at least we're not gonna run into that part of the chain, the supply chain
yeah,
issue.
so that might have been a good move. So that, right now, the contract completion dates are all in December, like end of December. The consent order date is in March. But Keller just now really can update their schedule and see if they can get all the primes to,
Keller's in pretty good shape though. They just gotta muscle through this little building, which is well within their means to get that done. And then it's really making sure the other primes get their work done, the electrical, get the HVAC stuff set up and get that system running.
so that's Beaver Creek, and we have all these hallways down there in that underground vault, so we think we should have a lot of construction photos or something I'll place along there so that yeah, because it was an interesting project with the tunnels and the rock excavation and the blasting and the. So that's that. Gary, you want to update on COAs?
Both the construction projects, Columbia Street Phase 2. That's pretty near done. The only thing that Carver's got to do is a little work in the stream course. And they've been reluctant to commit because of the weather. Somebody's got to be down there for about 5 days. And the weather hasn't cooperated, nor has their construction schedule. It's kind of, he's going to have some crews freed up. So if there is in the next couple of weeks, if he sees 2 or 3 days, they may be able to do part of it. And then if they get rained out, then come back and do the rest of it. But it's only a minor portion. The plantings are all in. So we're hoping next few weeks that they'll be done with the stream course. And then construction wise, everything will be done. Lee Street Phase 2 or Phase 3. The bike path project has been done. There's a few more plantings that have to be installed. But that's minor landscaping work that's got to get done. Other than that, like I said, that project itself has been up and operational since mid-June. It's been operating well. We've had quite a few comments that they really like it because the bike path is brand new now. It looks like there's canal stone, but it's not really canal stone. But everybody thinks we somehow got canal stone and formed some of the structures along the slopes.
We just assumed we unearthed some of the stuff buried in Cohoes and moved it over, right?
Yeah, I get that question all the time.
I could have given you some stones.
Yeah.
Seriously, I got a pile of them.
So anyway, we're working through on both jobs, final costs. But essentially those projects are physically pretty much done and the paperwork will be completed this fall. Manor Avenue and Little C, CHA and myself or so have to sit down to go over some of the mapping that I've got for Manor Avenue. And Little C, Arcadis has a report that was done and we were able to submit for WQIP. And, we'll see what the numbers are. We submitted the application, submitted the report just about at the same time. So
that'll be end of the year probably.
yeah, we're hoping. So
That gets submitted for WIA and Billmont.
it didn't get submitted for Billmont. I don't know about IMG. WQIP, I know it did.
Is it already on the IUP? It is, right?
Yes,
Annual list or multi-year?
no, I think it's on the annual list.
Okay.
Is, was that already covered in Troy's existing PFAs? I know Manor Ave was kind of a holdout in your,
Yeah,
so our 1404 financing, which we haven't closed on yet. We had told the EFC we wanted to close on it for April date, because that was the date that Troy had to award that Van Buren. But we haven't closed on that yet. I don't know if Van Buren Street's gonna end up with any pay-ups anytime soon, but
no,
I've been telling,
we had a kickoff meeting on that last week. So they're gonna try to do some inspection and some other miscellaneous work this fall. And then really hit it hard in the spring. It's really only probably a 6-week project. 8 weeks tops. So it's not due till next December. There's plenty of time to get it done. We don't want them to start now and have open trenches all winter long.
well, we want to get the financing in place. But when that financing in place, the financing for Manor Ave and Little C will also be in place from our point of view, from Albany's point of view. I don't know if it's already covered in Troy's, was that your 01, Chris, or did you have an 02? Just a 00 and an 01?
It's an 00 and 01. We put everything else in the last financing. We have an 02, but the 02 is just
Beaver Creek. But
So we took the rest of the tranches that were listed, took a total amount, and just put that into the 01.
But was there an 03 listed?
Yes. It was listed. Didn't close on it though. Not that I'm aware of. Everything was,
And there was,
everything was in the first,
that was gonna be
00 and the 01.
for Manor Ave or something else, or
Something else.
so if we, I guess what I'm saying, Gary, is if we wanted to beat the schedule that's in the long-term control plan, Albany and Troy's financings are already in place. And if you got WQIP, a little C, there might be pretty much, but you weren't intending to be making an EFC application.
No, that's why we didn't qualify for go. You guys might. But, and that's what they did
I think
before.
Bill's regarding, if you're on the list, you qualify for Bill.
You have to close on an EFC financing. We will not be closing on an EFC financing.
Even if they offered you 50% of the project fund.
I will see it happen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
I'll send you that information for that, folks.
All right, thank you.
Good luck.
Then, any other business? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Gary, second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, see you all next time.
Waiting then 70.
Oh, yes, now we should sign it.
Got more enthusiasm than
Okay, I don't see. You know what?
Yeah, right.
Designations are on the.
He came in after it went around the table.